Hi, I'm Jason with Geek Fever Games, and I'm here today to show you how to set up a game of Dead Man's Doubloons on Tabletop Simulator. Dead Man's Doubloons is a game being released by Geek Fever Games and our publisher, Thundergriff Games, over the course of 2017. Look for it at Gen Con. Alright, so what you see here, I've already loaded up Tabletop Simulator from Steam, and of course we have the game subscribed to in Steam Workshop. From here, there's a couple things that we need to do to set up the game to actually be played by humans. So, one quick disclaimer, and that is that the artwork that you see here right now is a blend of my awful prototype artwork and some of the publisher's really awesome professional artwork that's starting to come through. The board, for example, is the updated new artwork, or at least a early version of it, whereas the player boards here are currently still the old prototype artwork. So please bear with it, bear with us as we update this, and know that when you see the video, when you load up the game in Tabletop Simulator, you may see newer, much nicer looking components. So please keep that in mind. All right, so to begin, you'll notice that there's some note cards strewn about the table here. These are to help you get set up and get started. The only thing I did before starting this recording was there's a little MP3 player that shows up down here in the lower left. I've deleted that from this instance of the game just so that you don't hear background music while I'm trying to talk to you. All right, so first I'm going to show you a couple of the note cards up here. First and foremost is to set up Tabletop Simulator itself. As the host of this game, you want to set physics to semi-lock. That just really helps this game perform and behave the best way possible. So that is in your host options through your menu and options and so on. That's not for players to worry about. That's not something you even have to do multiple times. That's just setting up your own local copy of Tabletop Simulator. Second, you want to set your rotation angle to 45 degrees. That's this button way up here in the corner. And you just tap it a couple times and you'll get to 45 degrees. What that lets you do, and players should do this as well, by the way. What that lets you do is when you are rotating your ships and other components in this game, they automatically lock to 45-degree angles, as you can see here. That becomes important when you are trying to keep your ship aligned with the island in these four quadrants. So, lastly, once your players join the game and choose their colors, they're going to take, let's say someone's red, they're going to take all of the components and the mat, and yellow's going to take theirs, and so on, and put them in front of them. You want to right-click on the mats and go to Toggles and click Lock. What that means now is I can't accidentally click and drag this board and all the stuff that's on it and mess everything up. So you want to have all players right-click, toggle, lock. You as a host can do it for them if that is your preference. Okay, let's say we are setting up for a 4-player game. We'll just assume that that's the case right now. So I'm going to just delete 2 sets of the stuff here, and we'll say that green is way up here. And we'll give him his card, and we'll say that I'm blue for the purpose of this setup process. So the players have chosen their boards, they've locked them in place. That card is basically done. All right. So to set up the rest of the components for the game, I'm just going to kind of go from top left to bottom right here. Over here in the top, we have our map fragment tiles. And there's 2 parts of this process. This is the most complex part of setup, but it's for good reason. This is the magic of the game, is these map tiles and the way that they behave and interact with the rest of the game. So this card here says, in a 3 to 4 player game, which is what we're going to play right now, remove all fragments of one type from the game. Alright, so that's step 1. So this is the first map tile stack we're talking about. I'm going to right-click on it, click Search, and you'll see that there's 4 different types of tiles here. I have the Parrot's Riddle, the Path of the Cutlass, Skull's Gaze, and Curse of the Totem. So we're supposed to remove one of those types from the game. So I'll just remove the last one. It does not matter which you choose. They're all just flavor in terms of the pictures. So I've dragged those 3 from that tile set out, and now I have left 9. That's step 1. Step 2, from those that remain in the 9, Shuffle and remove the following number of random tiles without looking at them. 4-player game, remove 2. So I have to shuffle this stack, click, shuffle, or use your hotkey. It's now shuffled, and now I'm going to drag 2 random ones out, and again, just delete them. I'm left with 7 now. That note card is now done, delete. Now over here is the second part of this. Set up additional map tiles. After the first note card's done, shuffle and deal 1 randomly to every player. So that's actually the first thing that happens. We deal 1 to each player. So we just put them beside their ship mats. And the players will actually flip these face up at this point, but we're not going to play a game right now. So they're all flipped face up, and they're all different map tiles. Now what we have to do is shuffle in special map tiles into the rest of the stack. So step 4 here, shuffle these additional tiles in as follows. Look at the 4-player game. We're going to add a fame, a clue, and a protection orb. So I'm going to right-click, search. I'm going to find a fame tile, a clue tile, and a protection orb tile. Close that. These 3 that I just dragged out, those are the ones to add to this stack of map tiles. Now I can delete the remaining ones, delete the note card, shuffle this, and this is now the official stack of tiles for this game. As I said, that's the most complex part of this. The rest is simple. Follow those procedural rules and you'll be fine. By the way, the official game rulebook, at least as it currently stands in its prototype form, is available on Geek Fever Games' website. I believe I linked to it right here. If you click Rules or Notebook, this is the link to the Geek Fever Games website, Dead Man's Doubloons page. That link is also available in the Steam Workshop page. So all of these things I'm going over with you are detailed in greater detail in that rulebook. All right. Moving down here, set up the landmark and water area tiles. This is simple. Draw and place 4 random water area effect tiles face up in each of the 4 water areas. And it also says in a 2 to 3 player game, always use the whirlpool. So these are the water area tiles. Let's search and remove the whirlpool because we are not playing a 2 to 3 player game. And so of the 5 that remain, we can shuffle and place 1 in each of the 4 areas. Once these are out, they can be flipped face up and locked in place. In the rulebook, you will find that there's a recommended setup. If you want to just go with our recommendations, rather than placing these out randomly, we'll tell you where to place, for example, the fog, or which specific 4 of those 5 or 6 tiles to use. In any case, we have our 4 tiles. We're going to delete the last one. It's done. And finally, the landmark tiles, which are these 3 stacks here, all we have to do is shuffle them. They're going to stay right by the side of the board and wait to be used during the game. The main deck of cards, of course, shuffle that. The die is here. You can just leave that where it is. Up here, we have 12 captain cards. You'll notice that the back of the cards is identical to the main deck. That's intentional. Those will be shuffled into the main deck later in the game, but not at the beginning. What I usually do as the host is I drag them way down here and keep them in my little margin area, away from the players so that they don't accidentally shuffle them in. However, later on, once it comes time, you simply drag that deck on top of this deck, and they combine to make one big deck. All right, moving over here to the right, what's left? Doubloons and pillage tokens. Remove all but 8 doubloons per player. So you need 8 doubloons per player. We have a 4-player game here. That's 32. We have a stack of 10, 20, 30. We'll take 1, 2, and delete the rest of those 2 stacks. We now have 32 doubloons for the game. And then remove all but 2 pillage tokens per player. These are the pillage tokens. So we need 2, 4, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and delete the remaining ones. That's it for this. You'll notice it's giving you a little cheat sheet here also that says in a 3 to 4 player game in this case, there will be 3 doubloons placed in the center of the island each turn. So we can delete that note card, and what that means is you're going to, every turn, every new turn, you're going to drag 3 doubloons onto the beach area of the island. And those are available for pillaging in the round. The rest stay over here. As far as setup goes, we're just about done. Each player has their mat with a captain pawn. They can take their captain pawn, and they bring the captain pawn up to the beach as well. So just put it on the doubloons. So everyone's captain pawn begins on the beach. Later on in the game, they will actually come back to their ships, and that's why by default I had them over here on the cards. That's the spot where they will return to later on after they dig up the buried treasure at Skull Mountain here. Then they'll return to their ships. But for now, they all begin at the beachhead on the island. What else do we have? On our ship mat, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. We have a cube to track our fame, our ship's fame, and they begin at 0. But as you sink other ships, the fame tracker will move down on that track there. We have 4 crew markers covering each of these 4 spots. As crew die, you take the counter off and expose underneath the negatives that happen when that particular crew has been killed. You kill from left to right, kill the crew. So you'll simply remove those and place them back once you hire new crew back, which is something you can do. And finally, you have a damage, hull damage marker here, which begins at 10, the top spot, and that moves down the track as you take damage on your ship. The ship itself is placed by the player at the beginning of the game in any water area that they wish, facing any direction that they wish. So you're going to randomly decide who goes first, or use our recommended method, which is whoever can most convincingly say, "Ahoy, matey!" in the most pirate-like voice. That is the player to go first. Let's say it's blue. Blue chooses to start their ship in the fog because it's a little bit defensive, and they can face either clockwise or counterclockwise. So let's say I want to face counterclockwise, heading over towards the bustling port. Then let's say red is next to place, and red wants to go up here, facing this way. Yellow wants to go over here, facing back at me, and green wants to start where red started for whatever reason. Completely up to the players. From a game setup perspective, that is it. You can shuffle, obviously, all the piles, shuffle the bag of jewels, so that when you take jewels out, you don't know what you're getting. There's 3 different types of jewels. Doubloons are set to go. Oh, everyone begins with 2 doubloons. So drag, every player can drag 2 doubloons down to their ship map. And, of course, every player already has their map tiles. That's it. The game is set, ready to go. This is a cheat sheet. I usually leave that there for all players to reference. This is also a cheat sheet for end-of-game scoring, so every player can reference how much are the different jewels worth, crew members are worth some gold at the end, and so on. And with that, have a fantastic game, and enjoy all the pillaging, plundering, and destruction of other pirate ships. Enjoy!